Welcome to OkState Daily. Casey Porter here. So glad that you decided to tune in. Fans, we have a very, very, very special guest. As you see on your screen here, the color analyst for Oklahoma State Cowboy baseball, the Chief, is on your screen here and joining OkState Daily. So, hey, Chief Matt Davis, thank you so much for joining.
Anytime, Casey.
Yeah, man, super excited about this. First of all, let's back up. Let's give OSU fans. Now, you didn't just show up one day and say, hey, I want to be the color analyst for Oklahoma State baseball, right? There was a long history with the Chief and OSU. Take us all the way back and tell us how you got to where you're at right now.
Well, back in the middle 90s, I actually started, I was football student equipment manager, and I worked on the grounds crew helped the grounds crew just make a little extra money to get the field ready back in the day. And then from there, I become the student manager for baseball, and I did student manager stuff for football as well. And so over time, I think it was about probably 10 years in, 2004 or 5 with Rex, Ryan Fulmer, TH needed Fulmer to be in the bullpen. So our SID took over Thomas Samuel at the time. And then Thomas left and went to Vanderbilt, and I had filled in for him a couple of times when Rex, when he had his child was born or whatever. And then Rex goes, hey, you've been around this. You know the guys. You're around them every day. You know the game of baseball. Do you want to be my color guy? And I go, well, I've never really done radio before. And is there one of those buttons you push if I say something I shouldn't say? He's like, oh, you'll be all right, So, yeah, that's how it started, Casey, in 2005 or so. And here we are, 19 years later.
That is absolutely awesome. Of course, you've seen the 90s with Gary Ward. You saw it with Frank Anderson when, I'll say it, you don't have to say this, really baseball took a big back seat at Oklahoma State for probably a 20-year period. And then here comes Josh Holliday, and then all of a sudden everything just explodes back again, right? So You've kind of seen all of it. So take us through all those periods.
Yeah, I think it, and maybe backseat. That's not a bad word. I don't want to say that, but I think it was, the push was for football at that point. We need to push football financially. Coach Holder taking over. I mean, there's no secret. Football runs our department. Football pays the bills. Football pays for all the rest of us to be able to participate. None of us can self-sustain without football money. So Coach Holder had a plan and a vision, and it worked. I mean, football got on track. Coach Gunny got a great staff. Mr. Pickens jumped on board. And so the push started going towards football. And honestly, that's what it should have been at the time, just to get some stability, get some money in the budget, get football going. Football pays the bills. And then I'll say baseball took maybe a backseat to that, and so did maybe basketball. But, Coach Sutton was still doing his thing, winning tons of games, and they were still winning. So, and in baseball, maybe not as much, and it wasn't as – Frank, and I tell people all this time, I loved working for Frank Anderson. He was good to me. He was great to me. But Frank wasn't going to – he's not a salesman. Frank just wanted to coach baseball. Yeah. And Coach Ward, Coach Holliday, obviously they helped build the dynasty that we have today. Frank just wanted to coach baseball. He didn't want to get into all that other stuff. I really wish people could have saw his personality and what I saw every day, because he gets a bad rap. He really does. But his coaching staff were good coaches and good guys, but it just didn't work out. We the scholarship reduction thing we had that he had to coach through, and the fan base was just never connected with Frank. They weren't, and because Frank wasn't out, kissing babies and shaking hands.
Well, the stupid Andy Oliver deal. Golly, I'm so mad about that.
Oh, and in fact, the last time I talked to Frank about it and Emo and those guys, it's just like, man, we should have went to Omaha a couple times. We should have hosted, and we should have hosted. Yeah. And instead, one year we got sent to Arkansas as a 1. Like, we're the 1 seed at Arkansas. Hey, thanks. Hey, we appreciate that. And then the Andy Oliver situation. And then the one we went to we went to Arkansas when they were a national seed, and we knocked off the Razorbacks, and we're thinking, all right, man, we're going to host because Louisville knocked off Missouri. And I don't want to say we didn't get support from the administration at the time. I don't want to say that because I don't know, but having to go to Louisville for a super regional, and I don't know if maybe we didn't bid for a super regional back then. I don't want to throw stones because I don't know what happened. But next thing I know, we're having to go to Louisville and play in the super regional. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, this should be in Stillwater. we just took a national seed spot, and at that time it went to the rebid, and everybody submitted super regional bid, and maybe something was going on in Stillwater. I don't know. I don't want to get into that, but it's just, have to go to Louisville, and we end up getting beat in Louisville in Game 3.
Yeah. Joe Friend, I think, through that second game, gave up like one run, wasn't it?
Who?
The second game pitcher, what was his name?
Justin Friend.
Justin, yeah.
Yeah, he had the invisible slider, man. That guy, he could start at the hip of a right-hander, and it looked like he's going behind him, and whack, outside corner, inside corner. Yep, Justin Friend.
Well, if you could stop that Louisville offense in that bandbox that we had to play in, and it was like 1,000 degrees that weekend, then you're pretty darn good, because that whole – I'm still very upset about that one. That was frustrating.
Yeah, and what was funny, Casey, at the time, Louisville didn't even charge admission to their home games. Like,
oh, wow.
Yeah, this was before Louisville even really got it going in baseball. Yeah. That got them going. I mean,
yes.
Dan McConnell and those guys have been to Omaha 2 or 3 times since that year, and I'm sure they charge admission now. But, yeah kind of frustrating. You know what I mean? That I don't think that maybe Frank got a fair shake on that part of it. Like, and maybe Louisville came to Stillwater and beat us. I don't know. But obviously towards the end, it was probably time. I think Frank would tell you it was probably time. Now he's the pitching coach at Tennessee, loving life. Great talking to him anytime I can. So maybe some things, because he was promised a new stadium too. You know, there was some before Coach Holder. There was, hey, you know, because Frank, a lot of people don't know this, but Frank was offered the Auburn job. Frank was offered the head coach at Auburn, and he turned it down because he was promised a stadium. So there's some scoop if nobody knew that. I don't know.
Oh, man, yeah.
This is prior to Coach Holder, I believe, that we was offered the stadium when he didn't take the Auburn job. Maybe 06, Casey, or 07?
Yeah.
But, yeah, Auburn came after Frank hard, and he decided to stay. And like I said, it's all worked out for all parties now. And then, then to get back to your original point, then we bring Josh back in, and just the love and the infusion of Josh Holliday back into this program, the support from the fan base, it kind of brought the fan base back into it. And because everybody knows, nobody loves Oklahoma State baseball more than Josh Holliday, I promise you. No, Casey Porter, maybe Casey Porter. But Josh, this is him. This is the fibers. And I mean, honestly, and I say this all the time, and he probably wouldn't want me to say this, but you could pay him $50,000 and he'd be the coach at Oklahoma State baseball. Like, this was his dream job, and he got it, and he got the stadium, and here we are today. But no, that brought the excitement back. I just love it when you go to O'Brate, and just the amount of people that come to most every one of our home games is just. It's like, man, this is what we built this place for. It's not just a baseball game. It's an event center. It's a place to be. It's when the students are there in the outfield and the corrals and smokers going off and they're juiced up. The crowd. I mean, it's just an unbelievable, something I never dreamed would be possible, and we get to live it every day.
I actually got a chance to communicate a little bit with Kyle Robinson, the Saturday starter for Texas Tech, who, by the way, I know Texas Tech's a very heated rivalry, but, hey, Tim and Matt do just a tremendous knockdown, drag-out job there in Lubbock. Got to give them credit for it. And they're great dudes, man. They produce great professional baseball players. So, hey, mutual respect, no doubt about that. We've had some Donnie Brooks, but it is what it is. Total mutual respect there. I say that to say, had a chance to communicate with Kyle Robinson. I gave him my congratulations on just the awesome job that he did that Saturday night. And I say all that to say, you know, hey, this O'Brate Stadium, it's taken a minute for this Cowboy program to understand what makes it a home field advantage, right? Because we've had some moments, quite frankly, in it to this point that have been a little bit disappointing. But it just feels like this year, O'Brate really kind of came into its own. And I can tell you, he said, while I was on the mound that Saturday night, that place was electric. I'm not sure that he'd ever been in a college baseball environment like that before.
No doubt about it. And you know what, the moments you speak of, like the moments, the Donovan LaSalle home run against Oklahoma in Game 3, you know, that's his one home run of the year. How about that special memory Donovan LaSalle is going to have until the day he dies? That home run, I mean, it helped win the series, right? Another moment is, you know, the 2 no-hitters we had last year in the same week or within 10 days. Tyler Wolfert's 15-16 pitch at bat off Kyle Robinson that basically bumped him out of the game an inning earlier than Matty wanted to come get him. That's a special moment. That flipped that game. So this year has been a lot of magical moments at O'Brate, no doubt about it. And you know what? Kyle Robinson and the Red Raiders got a chance tonight against Texas. I don't want to say they're going to win, but if his changeup, Casey, his fastball command, and if his changeup was as good as it was in Stillwater, they got a chance, because that's one thing to get out Texas pitching. You have to have – they got so many left-hand hitters. You've got to have a right-hander with the changeup, something going away from those left-hand hitters. And if it's as good as the one he had in Stillwater, that'll be a heck of a game here in about an hour up here across the street.
I cover the Dodgers quite a bit. Of course, the Dodgers AAA team is in Oklahoma City. The AA team is in Tulsa. So that's a whole lot of fun. I only say that to say Billy Gasparino is the Director of Player Development. I don't know the exact title, but it's one of those big-wig jobs with the Dodgers. How the hell did his son end up at Texas, right?
Well, you never want to follow your dad's footsteps, right? Hey, you never wanted to be a Big 8 official, did you?
No.
Or Big 12, too. No, I think, he's a big city kid, being from California. And I want to say, I'm pretty sure his girlfriend went to Texas as well. And, that's the path that he wants to lead. He wanted to go to Austin, and why wouldn't you, right? If you're a big city kid, why wouldn't you want to go play baseball at the University of Texas? I understand completely, but in this day and age, you never know, right?
Yeah.
You never know. Maybe something happens. Maybe, who knows?
Yeah. I don't have the animosity towards Texas that a lot of Oklahoma State fans. I've never quite understood that. David Pierce, I know I've talked to several different professional baseball players that played for him. Actually, talked to Cody Hosey, played for him when he was at Tulane. And they'll tell you, man, this dude is just absolute cream of the crop, dude. So I've got nothing but respect for Texas.
Well, and I think, and to coach at the University of Texas, you got to just already know you're going to get fired.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to get fired. They fired the second all-time winningest coach of college baseball history. That's a job that, unless you win it every other year, or you're in Omaha every 2 out of 3 years, if they can fire Augie Garrido, they're going to fire whoever. So I think the pressure and stress sometimes of a job like that, knowing that your unrealistic expectations you're up against all the time, I think that can wear and tear on some people, and Coach Pierce and anybody that's going to be in that job, and maybe make you guarded a little bit, maybe go into a shell. But that's a job you got to be real personable, right? You got to be. It doesn't always come down to baseball, job, Augie and all his videos, and he's obviously a very good baseball coach as well. God rest his soul. But that takes a special person to be the coach there. And like I said, you've got to understand that you're probably going to get fired there. If you leave. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. That's also the lure to a place like Oklahoma State, is that you can get in here like a Josh Holiday and a Mike Gundy, who nobody would ever want to fire. That's not what I'm saying. But still, you get in here and people appreciate you instead of wanting to fire you all the time. That is one of the lures of a place like this. But I always get a kick out of it every time, every baseball season. The first thing I have to do is I have to fire up the video of Augie Garrido with the meltdown. This is my life, bleepity, bleepity, bleep. And the funniest part of that is our own Tom Holiday's in the background going, oops.
You know what's funny, Casey, is we recreated that video this year, because now we're in their locker, that old locker room. That's where the visitors' locker room is.
Oh, really?
So me and Hub Roberts may or may not have talked about shooting some video there and recreating that, but that might not be for public consumption. But yeah, in 15 minutes, you old boys are going to remember what I got to say. But yeah, how do you get picked off?
If this was a fight,
you would
be dead.
Yeah, I'd come visit you in the hospital. Yeah.
And I'd tell you, as soon as they took all that crap off your back.
Yeah, we'll have a discussion about how that guy just destroyed you.
And Tom Holiday's in the background. He handles it just perfectly. He's just standing there like, what the hell do I do for the next 5 minutes?
Yeah, don't let TH fool you now. He can peel some paint too.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just how calm after Augie did that the one there in the locker room in Austin when he got excited, but then the one where we were quoting when they were out at, I think, San Diego, and he's just calm and cool and collective, and then I'll come and visit you in the hospital. Okay. It shows the two sides, but you know what? Those guys, they would die for him, man.
No doubt. No doubt about that. Hey, I've got a request here, and I'm sure that there's nothing you can do about this. Of course, we all love listening to Dave Hunsiker. He is just absolutely simply fantastic. We are so lucky that Oklahoma State got him. Tom Holliday is incredible to listen to. Of course, if you're me and I'm 51 years old, and Tom Holliday is like royalty to me, right? And then also just the amount of baseball that he understands and knows and is able to communicate for a guy who loves baseball like I do. It's like a bonanza to get to listen to, right? And then we got you and Rex on the radio side. So it's like, man, I mean, we're just so lucky to have these broadcast teams. What we got to get, man, we got to get like Rex and Bill used to do, where Rex would do 3 innings of the play-by-play, Bill would do 3, and you'd flip back and forth. We got to get you and Rex to flip off with Dave and Tom between the TV and radio, like the Braves used to do.
Oh, go back and forth between booths?
That would be sweet, man.
You get me and TH in the same booth together, they might have the SEC might show up, though. So, yeah, we have to – well, like I told you earlier, I have a face for radio, so that's why. That's why I didn't really want a video in this podcast here. I wanted to just be able to stay hidden. But that could be exciting. And I've done a little bit with TH when Dave was doing basketball. I've done some of the pregame stuff with him and postgame stuff. But yeah, move around the booth. You say we're right next to booths next to each other. We could jump around.
That would be absolutely awesome. You don't have to be on the video. It's just your voice, I mean, they don't have to show actually video.
Well, them TV guys make way more money than we do.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Okay. All right, man. Hey, Big 12 tournament. I think Oklahoma State probably has already sewed up a host for regionals. I think it's probably highly, highly unlikely that they're going to host supers, regardless of what happens in the Big 12 tournament. So we've seen Texas many different years come into Oklahoma City back when the Big 12 tournament was in Oklahoma City. Hopefully it comes back. But and come in and say, hey, maybe we want to win 1 game or 2. Then by about Saturday morning, they're like, see ya, right? Yep. We're out of here. We want to get ready for regionals. So how does Oklahoma State approach this Big 12 tournament?
Well, I can tell you how Josh Holliday approaches it, and he lets them know. Anytime you put on that uniform, you're fighting for Oklahoma State. We're not fighting for anything other than what's on the front of that jersey, and we owe it to the program, and we owe it to every player that ever played here to put our best foot on the field every time we put on this jersey. So Josh Holliday's plan is to play in the championship game on Saturday and win the sucker. He's never minced words about that. We are not going to put on these uniforms and not try to win the game. So, and I've always enjoyed that with Coach, even though we're like, hey, man, let's win a couple, keep everybody fresh. Our hay's in the barn, let's if we host it and then let's go. But that's not his mentality at all. And that's why he's in charge, right? He's like, we put on this jersey, we owe it to everybody that's ever played here to play the best that we can and put our best foot forward. So, yeah, and Augie Garrido, like you said, they used to come here. Their hay was in the barn, man. They had the host, they had the national seed. They would come in there and maybe they throw one of their starters, but they'll bullpen those games. And many years they went 0-2 and just get some guys working to keep their guys fresh. And of course, you look up and they're in Omaha every year. That was just his philosophy. It wasn't about not representing the University of Texas. It was like, this is how I'm going to do it, and we're going to do it. And of course, it doesn't help when the guys are like Jay Brant Cox and JP Howe. And when I say down staff guys, those guys end up being big leaguers. So It's not like, he was him and Frank and those guys were 8-9 deep on the mound. So it's a little different situation than most. But yeah, no, that's Josh's mentality. Any game we put this uniform on, we're protecting the OS. He says those words. We must protect the OS, and we're going to do what it takes. And we might not win, but we're not going to not try to.
Before we get into this year's team, which I absolutely love, there's different teams that meet your eye a little bit better than others. Of course, every single team meets my eye, because I'm such a huge Oklahoma State fan. But this team this year definitely has just kind of met my eye more than a lot of the others. But before I ask you that, and kind of an honest answer here, is Oklahoma State a blue blood in baseball, you think?
Blue blood in baseball. Traditionally in our history, I would say yes. I would say yes. Now, recently, maybe not. I mean, who's ever going to do what we did in the 80s? I mean, no one's ever replicated that. So, and everybody puts so much into baseball, but I'm like you, though. I look at us as a blue blood. Maybe others don't, but to me, that's all I know. And depending on what your level of blue blood is, that trips to Omaha, like what would your criteria to be in your mind? What would you say to be a blue blood?
I would say just a team that whenever people think of it, they think it's one of the national powers of all time.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I talked to Keith Moreland today, and he just always admired Oklahoma State, and Craig Way, they just admire. I mean, yeah, when we roll into places that of other historic places, I mean, the crowds are better, they're juiced. And so, yeah, on a national level, when you see Oklahoma State, some of those people that are blue bloods as well, they still look at us as blue bloods for sure, no doubt.
I'll tell you how you can really tell that Oklahoma State is a blue blood. If you look at the amount of success Josh Holliday has had at Oklahoma State in baseball, which is quite staggering whenever you start adding up the wins, beating his arch rival in OU, winning Big 12 tournaments, winning Big 12 regular season championships, and if you're not doing that, finishing like first or second, like every single year. I mean, it's staggering the amount of success he's had, but he's only been to the College World Series one time, which a lot of people say, well, hey, Oklahoma State hasn't, so they kind of have judged it by that. That goes to show you right there, Oklahoma State's a blue blood, because any program that wasn't a blue blood would be so happy about the success Josh Holliday has had. They'd be doing cartwils right now, right?
And that's very well put. That's why you would be considered a blue blood when you have feelings that way. But you're like, go to Omaha. Yeah, that's 100%, Casey. You hit the nail on the head. And yeah, and this year's club is just a typical Josh Holliday club. Yeah. Started a little slow, and a lot of that has to do with scheduling. There's a reason why we're in the spot we're in every year, because Josh schedules we're not dodging anybody. We'll come down here, Globe Life. Next year, I believe we go to a couple different venues in early season that are very challenging. And what it does is your record might not be exactly where you want it, but by the time you hit conference play, that's when we start trending upwards. It starts to get warmer. The ball starts flying. Yep. It starts getting locked in. Rob starts narrowing down his staff of what we're doing and who's going where, what pieces fit where. And then, boom, you look at the end, you're fighting for first, second, and third every year. And this year was no different. It was the same thing as it's been since Josh and Rob and the coaching staff has been here. It's just a typical Josh Holliday team. And maybe this team just a little bit different offensively. I'm knocking on wood. This team doesn't strike out as much as some of the other ones. There's some doubles in there too. There's like some takes. There's guys taking their walks. The numbers for the pitching staff have been awesome this year. For what you didn't know what you're going to get coming into the year for what you had back. I don't think Rob gets enough credit for that too.
No doubt.
With the Garcia, the Crans, we kind of not knew what we're getting with Holliday, because he'd been a proven starter, and we knew what we were going to probably get out of Binge. And really, what the great thing about Binge is he hasn't been much until lately, so he's fresh. I mean, he is not like he's been going every Sunday. Because I think Rob, obviously, if you could like to keep him and Crans at the back end at the time, but you needed Kiesel, Gabe Davis, you needed a number of these guys to step up to take that Sunday role, and it just never happened. Yeah. We went back and forth, and it just never happened. So Rob's like, well, if I'm just going to use Binge once a week, then let's just put him in on Sundays, and him and Josh, just perfect call on that deal. And then now you get a fresh Binge. Your rotation gets better as the weekend goes on. And that's no slight on, Garcia or Holliday to Binge. But, I mean, Binge, he can be dominant now. Mm-hmm. I mean, when he makes 4 pitches, he can be absolutely dominant at about 96 miles an hour sometimes. So a great problem to have for the Cowboys. And Garcia the other night was just so gutty at Houston. I tell everybody he didn't have a slider or a changeup really, but he had 4 pitches. Fastball up, in, down, and out. Just moving his fastball around. And battling and competing. It's been a long time since we had this many guys. Even if they didn't have their best stuff, you look up and they chop off 6 innings or 7 innings, which may or may not win that game. But what it does, it saves bullets for the bullpen. Those bullets get saved, and you're taxing the bullpen. And that's been another thing. I mean, this is the freshest this pitching staff could expect to be at this point.
Especially considering that you've only played 2 games, your last 2 Big 12 series. Of course, the weather got you with Texas Tech, which was a little bit odd. I mean, that was kind of a weird day. I mean, you got to understand there's travel arrangements for these teams, and you got to make predictions, and they don't always come true. We know that in Oklahoma, so that was kind of a weird deal with Texas Tech. Then the weather got you at Houston, and then you haven't had midweek games for the last 2 days. So a guy like Gabe Davis hasn't thrown on a mound in a game in like 3 weeks. So, hey, it's almost like you're too fresh coming into this thing, right?
Right, and Benj goes tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't talked to Rob about it yet, but it wouldn't surprise me if that Thursday might be if Garcia does. If he doesn't feel Garcia is ready to go, then that could be a bullpen day. That could be a Gabe Davis. That could be a Molsky bullpen day just to get everybody work, and then give those guys an extra day, and then you could go back with maybe Garcia and Holiday, right, for Thursday and Friday, and then that keeps you in line for the regional the next week. And because ultimately you want to win this thing, nobody says that, but you also got to be smart. There's no reason to burn the midnight oil, burn the candle, when next week is obviously more important for this team. It's more important than this week because as long as you win a couple, you're probably solid host. You're probably not going to be able to win enough to get to a national seed. I'm not saying you can't, but probably not, right? And so the risk reward is do as well as you can here, live with the results, right? And then keep everybody in line. You're pitching in line for what's most important, which is next week to punch your ticket to keep playing.
When did the regional start on a Thursday or Friday? Do we know? We don't know that yet, do we?
Friday, I believe.
Yeah, so it would be totally on brand for Rob to start Garcia on Friday and Holiday on Saturday because that's the days they pitched all year long. That's typically what he likes to do.
Correct. He likes to keep you in your slot. And a lot of people are like, well, why would he throw Benj? Well, Benj hadn't thrown in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Benji needs to throw. Get him out there and get him throwing. And another thing is people, he's got to play right field too, for the rest of the tournament. So there's some considerations that go into, and quite honestly, in a month, that guy's going to be a top 15, 20 pick in the draft. He's a first rounder. And Josh and Rob, they are never going to put a player at risk for a win. I promise you. Right. And you got to make sure you do the right thing by Carson. And they have since he's been on. They've protected Carson well, and just like everybody else, they don't push anybody. But we also got to remember he needs to play right field as well. So there's that kind of that happy medium you're going to get there. And if he's pitching well, he'll go 6-7 innings. I'm not questioning that at all. But you're also not going to try to overextend him.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you what, this transfer portal thing and the NIL, of course, the NIL is, even at a school the size of Oklahoma State, isn't really a huge factor in baseball yet. It's more so in football, definitely in basketball. It is a factor in baseball. I'm not saying it, but it's not maybe the determining factor for most of the guys on a roster. I'll say that. I think I can confidently at least put it in those kinds of terms. So I say all that to say, I really think the transfer portal situation plus the NIL is advantageous for Josh Holiday because, man, whenever you talk to him, he's so charismatic and he communicates so well. There is no way that a 21, 22-year-old kid who has 2, maybe 3 years of college, like a Sam Garcia, can have a conversation with Rob Walton and Josh Holiday and not leave that conversation as a mature young man going, damn, that's where I want to go. I want to play for those two guys, right? Whereas maybe an 18-year-old might be looking at the football stadium or his girlfriend might have went to a certain – but when you're talking about 21-year-old basically grown men at this point –
yeah, they're baseball players.
Yeah, man, Josh and Rob are going to have a lot to offer these guys.
Right, and honestly, it's part of the game. In fact, there's one team that spent a lot of money this year in this league, and it didn't work out for them because there's a lot of finger pointing going on about it. I'm not going to say their name, but there's a lot of finger pointing going on about who got what, and this guy got this, and I did this, and why is he making that? And it's been struggle bus for that team all year. And sometimes if you're trying to get guys that are chasing the dollar, is that really somebody that you want to bring in your program? You know what I mean? And we all understand it's part of the game. And it worked out fantastic for LSU last year with Tommy White and Paul Skeens. Okay, it works for them. But it doesn't always work at other places. I mean, it just doesn't. And is that really the game you want to get into? Or if somebody's demanding X amount of dollars, is that really somebody that you want to bring in your program? Because Josh is such a culture, program, team-based, prepare you to be not only a professional baseball player, but prepare you to be a man, help grow up while you're here and get your degree. Those are things that are spoken that aren't spoken in a lot of schools. They're just not. It's not lip service either. It's absolutely a fact.
I've talked to professionals, listen to Gage Green talk. It is absolutely not lip service.
And it's just like he's too good. He's like too good to him. Like he never shows him up. He never yells, screams. It's not him, and he treats them like gold. And I don't say that because I work here. Because I say it because if you're going to send your kid to someplace to play, by all means, it's the guy to send it to because it's going to be a first-class experience. Now, some guys might leave here not happy because of playing time, but it wasn't on purpose. You know what I mean? Maybe you should be some self-reflection sometimes.
Get better.
Right. I mean, so it's just like pros, and it's great when they do sign. And they've never told guys not to sign. Hey, if you get what you think you're going to get, Rob, Josh are not going to stand in your way. They're not going to feed you lines of baloney. They're going to say, hey, if that's what you think you're worth, and if that's what you want to do, then you should take that. But here's X, Y, Z. They're going to provide you with all the information. And if you should go like Carson Benz, they're not going to tell Carson you shouldn't go. Right?
Christian and Carson Strand, they told him, get out of here. Bye. See ya.
Hey, man, can't go, right? Like, go be it. Go be a big leaguer, right?
You're not allowed to come back. We love you, brother, but you're not coming back.
And a lot of, and I'm not saying that Josh is the only guy in the country that's like that, but there is no transactional with Josh Holliday like you will see in one particular league. It's all transactional, and there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure in that other league to win, and keep feeding monsters. And so I'm not throwing stones at any of those coaches in that league that's the way they go by because that's their livelihood. So. But yeah, it's not Oklahoma State, I promise you.
Yeah, and that goes back to kind of talking about the location you're at an Oklahoma State University that's more family oriented to begin with. I think you're given that opportunity just by the culture of the university a little bit more itself than you are maybe at an LSU or a place like that. Of course, I don't know that. I can't. That's kind of an assumption on my part because I don't know anything about those other places. But I do know very well how Oklahoma State works. Hey, we've talked about the pitching. I love the position players on this team. When you look at, obviously, Carson Benz and Nolan Schubert, as good as Oklahoma State has been for the last 50 years, and it goes back to whenever Tom and Gary came, I believe it was 1977, so we're coming up on 46 years anyways. It's actually been that long since that started. I'm not sure there's been a better 1-2 punch than Carson Benz and Nolan Schubert. I mean, when you look at some of the things that Nolan Schubert has done, it's mind-boggling considering that he's actually coming off an injury. Carson Benz is simply fantastic. Zach Earhart finally, I think, figured out the type of offensive player he needs to be to be a great player and to be the catalyst for this team. You look at Tyler Wolfert, the 15-pitch at bat, just a gritty, tough dude. And then Avery Ortiz has really come into his own. Colin Briggerman, by the way, that dude has really turned it on in the last month. And then my guy, the shortstop, Lane Forsythe, that'll spank one up the middle with 2 strikes. He'll hit and run a 17-hopper like he did last weekend. He'll stand on his head. He'll do cartwheels. He'll bunt for whatever he has to do to win a game.
Whatever the team needs. A suicide squeeze to beat Arkansas, whatever it takes. And you make great points on all those. And, the early injuries really has helped us in the end. And you knew it, you hoped it would, unfortunately with Miola going out and Schubert going out, and the injury situation forced Colin Ritchie to play a lot more, forced Avery Ortiz to play. And you just kind of had to play them, right? They had to play. They're freshmen, but they had to get their feet on the ground. And I'm just telling you, Avery Ortiz is about close to being really good. Some of the plays he's starting to make defensively, he's getting comfortable. It's coming easy to him. There's not as much stress and pressure. And he made 6 or 7 big-time plays that don't get noticed because we boat race Houston in those games. But just really big-time plays. And then going back the weekend before against Texas Tech, he made a couple big league plays up the middle against the Red Raiders as well. So it's starting to get good to Avery defensively, and the hit tool will be there. It's going to continue to get better. Same goes with Colin Ritchie. And the Donovan LaSalle kid, he can hit now. He's a Donovan LaSalle.
So can Max.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. And people don't talk about it enough, though, either. Charlie Carter. Just defensively, he's a professional receiver. Pro scouts will tell you, you have to see how many strikes he steals, Casey. And
the way he blocks the ball changes the game for pitchers.
100%. Brian Holiday could pitch blindfolded now.
Yeah.
nobody's afraid to bury a breaking ball. You know what I mean with Charlie back there. And Ian Doherty. Ian has had a fantastic year, and he's worked at it. He's gotten better. He's been big for us.
Confidence.
Right. But Charlie being able to take some of those innings away from him so he doesn't wear down. And, Bo Sylvester to start the year, he was probably the starter until he got hurt. I mean, and that's a big time stick too. That's not here. But everybody that has followed an injury has stepped up their game. Like, competition breeds success, right? Guys pushing each other to be their best, and it's been awesome to watch.
Yeah, and another guy, shame on me because he's literally one of my favorite players in a long time, Aiden Miola. You talk about a dude that is just in I'm going to kick your ass mode at all times, man. I love that dude. He's so clutch and he's so competitive.
He's a silent assassin. Yeah. He doesn't say a lot of words. He just gets it done. And if it's me and you, I'm winning. That's the mentality. And people don't know
17 hopper that goes 24 feet. He's on base with a base hit, and he's happy as hell about it.
100%. And people don't understand all the physical things he's had to deal with this year. And he's a tough man. He's just a tough guy. There's a lot of tough guys in this lineup. And Lane Forsythe, when you got him out of the portal, we knew immediately, hey, he's going to play defense.
Yeah.
Defender, he's going to defend. If he hits, it's gravy. It's gravy if he hits. Well, he's done more than hit. He's hitting about 300. You know what I mean? And getting
2 walk-offs, 1 a home run and 1 on suicide.
Right. Hitting the ball the other way, like you said. Hey, man, send a guy in motion, hit a 17 hopper to the right side, hit behind the runner. He did that against Houston. Like, he'll lay down a bunt. He'll work the count. Like, the old Freddie Ocasio days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Working the counts and playing the game and doing everything that needs to be done. Laying down. The one guy that ever bunted for Oklahoma State, Ocasio. You know what I mean? Like, just whatever it takes to make a winning baseball play is what Lane Forsythe will do for you.
I don't know how to explain this. I can't put it into words, but like when I look at a kid or a specific team, I go, oh, he's an OSU baseball player. I mean, that's an OSU baseball player right there. Like when you watch Aiden Miola, when you watch Zach Earhart, you go, yeah, that's a OSU baseball player right there. That's what an OSU baseball player looks like. I don't know how to explain that.
Yeah, that's a Rusty McNamara, a Jeff Guile, tough guy. You know what I mean? Tough guys.
Yeah, and I think you forget going even back to the 80s. And, I mean, if you know anything about Pete Incaviglia, Robin, yes, they were talented. Yes, they were, they had all the elite talent. But really what that whole deal was built on was tough guys. I mean, just a tough mentality, gritty. And, hey, when it becomes down to me and you, I'm going to kick your ass. I mean, that's really what Gary Ward baseball came down to. Hey,
I'll give you a great Greg Swindell story. Swindell told me this. We were playing in a regional there in Austin, and I think it was a regional, and Pete was taking BP, and all the Texas pitchers, all of them were on the rail, just running their mouth, chirping. Said Pete, when he was done, Pete walked over to the Texas dugout with his bat and pointed at all of them, said, I'll take every one of y'all one by one, just get in a line. And Swindell said, I was looking around going, no, that wasn't me, man. That was that guy over there. He said, Pete walked over to our dugout and pointed the bat and said, y'all just get in line. Just get in. I'll take every one of you. Just get in line. Come on.
He was serious.
And he was dead serious. And they knew it. And they knew Pete was serious. Can't do that stuff anymore, man. The good old days.
Oh, yeah. I was about 15 feet away from that Bedlam brawl, too. That was so classic.
This day and age, Bobby Perna would be in jail, wouldn't he?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and the good old days, too, man, when Wichita State would come into town and Brent would get mad about something. And of course, well, I mean, it was a heated rivalry. And then Gene, we knew Gene was going to get mad about something. It didn't matter. He was going to find something to lose his temper about. And there were going to be about 17 F-bombs that you could hear all the way in Perry. And it was going to be like the most competitive, greatest weekend of all time.
And what was great, it wasn't always G-Dub and Gene. Brent, BK, and TH were better.
That's why I said Brent first.
Oh, 100%. And you know what? Playing those guys, they always come by the booth and talk to Rex and I. I mean, just fantastic because all that's gone now, right? I mean, all that stuff is in the past. We all laugh about all those stories and TH and Brent, and then they'll talk and they'll laugh. And same with G-Dub and Gene. The respect, you see the respect when Kimnitz talks to TH or talks to, they're all fun stories. In the end, that's four of the powers of college baseball back in the days in the 80s and 90s, those four. And it's just awesome to come back and share stories. And, Kimlitz works for the athletic department there raising money, and he's the happiest he's ever been in his life. It's good to see those guys when we play them. And, those were the days, man.
They absolutely were. They absolutely were. Hey, I got to say, and I like to ask guys like you that have been around this program forever, their greatest memories is kind of their greatest moment type situation. And there were a bunch of great moments in the 80s College World Series. Pete Incaviglia hit a home run against Grambling that went over the lights and cleared the softball field. I was actually standing in the stands back then at the softball stadium. You could stand in the stands and watch, and it was like, wow. I mean, it was the most unbelievable thing. But hey, the two greatest moments for me was whenever Hugo hit the home run off the right field fair pole, right? I mean, that was like the most amazing thing ever. And then whenever Trevor Boone, just a couple years, 2019, took out the light bulb on the Chickasaw Brick. Matter of fact, they haven't fixed that light yet. Every time I go to Bricktown Ballpark, the first thing I look at is that light bulb that's out.
That H is still out?
Yep, sure is. What are your greatest moments?
Well, to echo the home run Hugo hit off Player of the Year Brooks Kiesnick against Texas, that was definitely up there. And man, there's been so many great memories. The 2004 team that won the conference tournament with Frank, when we only had about four guys to pitch, and just
Josh Fields.
Well, Fields and those guys, we're playing Missouri in the seventh inning. We're down
36-20 or something like that.
Yeah, we're down 9-2 in the seventh. We're like, we're not. This is not just our day. And Tim Jameson of Missouri had like three of their bullpen guys hot and ready to go with all sub-3 ERAs, and we come back and win that thing in extra innings. And in 2016, going to annex in the state of South Carolina, but knocking off Clemson and South Carolina to punch the ticket to Omaha, and things that you might never see again. I shouldn't say never, but we still hold the record of back-to-back wins in 2016, 1-0 in the College World Series. That's never done, and you're one game away from playing for it all in 2016, and the year Coastal Carolina won it. That was good because, Casey, the end of that 2016, I think we just got swept. We went to the Big 12 tournament. We got tooed and barbecued, maybe even got run-bulled by TCU.
We weren't hitting.
Yeah, and we're like, holy smokes, man. What are we going to have anything left? And then, Rob said, hey, I'm starting Buffett. Mm-hmm. I'm starting Hatch and Buffett, and Jensen Elliott will go third. You had three starters. We've just rolled through Clemson, rolled through South Carolina, and rolled through the first two games of Omaha. That was very special 3 weeks. It's very similar to what Oklahoma did. The Sooners did a couple of years ago. They ended up making the championship game, but pretty similar. Those last 3 weeks are just getting hot, right, and just getting where it can't be beat. That was kind of that 2016 team. Those are great memories as well.
Yeah, I was always hoping that the new stadium would be called Warren Buffett Stadium here in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
That would be a little bit of money there too, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have to say my biggest disappointment, heartbreak in Oklahoma State baseball history, no doubt, I think the year was 1990 when they changed the format. Oklahoma State had ruled their way all the way to the finals. Golly, man. I still just want to throw up my mouth when I think about it. One game.
Paid for TV, 2-1 loss to Georgia. Yeah,
and they had a freshman, Stan Payne, pitching.
Rex, that's one thing Rex and I have. We've tried to make a pact that we'll never speak of that 1990. And
it's just you felt like if Gary Ward could have ever got that first national championship, like he would have won like 9. You know what I mean?
Might have won the next, 100%, no doubt about it. And that's a shame, TH and G-Dub, they deserve that, man. They deserve the national title. And I mean, I get it, sports and life aren't fair, but those guys deserve it. They're not only great coaches, they're hard workers. They bust their butt to get players. Dave Holliday as well. Let's not forget Dave. He was part of a lot of that recruiting time too.
I see him all the time.
You know what? And it's They deserve at least one national title for sure. No
doubt. Dave's on the pro scouting side with the Phillies right now, so I run into him every now and then at Tulsa and Oklahoma City. What a great dude. The Holidays, man. They're just first class.
Not going to find a better guy than Dave Holliday, no doubt about it.
No doubt about that. Hey, man, you got any final thoughts on this year's team or the Big 12 tournament coming up or anything that you wanted to get out there about any of that?
I mean, I'm knocking on wood, but we're playing really good baseball right now. We're on all three phases. We're playing good defensively. We're pitching it well, and the hitting's there. Last 2 weeks have been really good baseball. Really clean baseball, and hopefully we can continue that trend and doing those things. And when it comes to regionals, it comes down to matchups. Who you match up with, and how you fit that style of who you're playing. And obviously, you always want opportunities to play it through your ballpark. And this team's a little different. The teams in the past seem to play better on the road, seem to be better on the road for regionals, and maybe suited better to win one on a road regional. I think this team plays very well at O'Brate. I mean, they play very well at O'Brate, so this might be a little different. This team feels really good in their ballpark, and hopefully we can flip the script on that as long as we get a host and maybe punch that through to a super.
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, just from afar, last question for me, and then we'll get off here. I've taken a whole bunch of your time, Chief, and I really appreciate you hanging with me. But I've had so much fun talking to you. This is just such an honor and a joy for me. But just from afar on the outside, it really looks like, Josh has had some really close-knit teams, those first couple of teams he had with Vinny Whelan and all those guys. And then obviously the 2016 team. 2019 was a really, really tight-knit team. I mean, when they lost that last game at Texas Tech, they were more disappointed and sad that they weren't going to get to play together. I actually talked to Max Hewitt about this. They were more sad about the fact they just weren't going to get to play as a team together anymore than they were that they just lost the game, right? So that was a really close-knit team. This feels like another one of those really close-knit Josh Holliday teams.
There's no doubt about it. This team loves doing things. They love everything. They spend time in the clubhouse together. They spend time playing games together, fungo golf together, going to movies together, going to other games that are going on together.
Dodging tornadoes
together. Yeah, we're all in the team room just sitting there watching it. And, everybody at the hotel is freaking out in Houston. We're like, this is an average Tuesday where we're from. But really didn't realize it until after we walked outside when it was over, and there's electric lines down in our hotel, and you see buildings without windows. You're like, holy smokes, that was a bad deal. And it was a war zone, Casey, driving to the ballpark in Houston. Rex and I had trees in the road, stoplights not working. Wow. Nope. It was crazy. But no, you're right. This team likes each other. And if you like each other, you're going to play for each other, and you're going to support each other, and you're going to battle with your brothers. And that team is 100% this way. There's some teams you can see right now. They've got 2 or 3 individuals that are waiting for the draft and waiting for other things. Not this team. This team is focused on doing right by Oklahoma State baseball and their brothers and taking it as far as they can. And we'll sort the draft out later, but that goes back to the culture that's set from the beginning and the type of people and players you bring into your program, the kind of what you recruit. Sometimes there's some guys you would like to have, but you're like, they just don't fit here. They just don't fit. That's the group, the collection of players that Josh and the coaching staff have brought to campus. They like each other, and they enjoy hanging out and being around each other.
I've collected all these quotes from the all Big 12 players here today, and they've all responded, that's just a testament to just the kind of people they are to begin with. But the point being here is that all of them are like, hey, yeah, cool, okay, whatever, belt. Hey, by the way, we want to win this. We want to win. I mean, everything was just totally team oriented. It was like, right. Wow. I mean, it was just super impressive.
And just like, people bring up to Benj, hey, you're going to go in the first round probably here, 15, 20 picks. And he'll tell you, and he means it. It's not my concern. I got another month or so with my brothers. Like, I got another month. We're not done at Oklahoma State yet. I'm not. That'll happen when it happens, but I'm completely focused about what we got going on here. And when you got leaders like that lead by example and maybe not by talk all the time, when you got guys like that, you tend to have a special group. If you got a bunch of guys yelling, screaming, and pointing that are hitting 200, nobody's listening to that. You know what I mean? Yeah. This team, there's none of that. There's no finger pointing. They're pitchers, position players. There's no finger point. Everybody's on the same page, and that's why they're winning. There's a reason why you're winning. I've seen a collection of teams. Well, like I said, there's one team that didn't finish very well in the league that was predicted to go really far this year, and they still might. I'm not saying they won't, but there's a lot of things like that happening, and when those things happen, in baseball for sure, it just tears you down, and you get that bad juju going, and you can't turn it around. And this team is most of Josh's teams are the same as like this. They're in it with each other until the final, till they say we're not.
It's also why they were able to take 2 just massive gut punches. I mean, they took 2 massive gut punches and turned them around almost immediately.
100%. 100%.
All right, man. Hey, I've taken a whole lot of your time. And by the way, also Carson Bench, similar to Matt Holliday, who could be anywhere in the world that he wants because he has Major League money, right? He was a Major League All-Star. So he has enough money to be in Cozumel if he wants to be at this moment, right? But guess where he's at? He's on a baseball field, right? Hey,
Correct.
if you give Carson Bench the option to be anywhere in the here's all the money in the world, you can be anywhere in the world, he's going to say, give me a baseball field, right?
Yeah, give me a baseball or riding the rides over at Six Flags. He's still a child of youth. There's still child in them, and that's the joy of watching a guy that this ain't a job. It's a joy to play baseball. It's fun. That's why he's so successful, and that's why, in my opinion, that's a big leaguer. He's going to be I'll be shocked if Carson Bench is in a big leaguer just by his mannerisms, how he acts, never too high, never too low. In that game, you can't be, right? You got to be steady Eddie to be consistent, to be a professional, and that's Carson Bench.
It's going to be all about staying healthy. That's what that minor league grind is, man. You get in there, just got to stay healthy. The guys that do, and the guys that just keep going. I mean, there's guys that get frustrated and they quit and this and that. If you just keep going and you can stay healthy, the talent will eventually prevail. So we all hope that for the best for Carson. But like you said, lots of work to do. Hopefully we're still playing well into June, into the College World Series. So, hey, Chief, I've taken almost an hour of your time. I've said like 8 different times. I'm getting ready to let you go, and this is my last question. But I was having so much fun, I lost track of time. So thank you so much.
No problem, Casey. Enjoyed it.